Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It is fantastic to have you here today. My name is Scroat, and we are taking a look at part 2 of our Slenderstick build in From the Depths. So without further ado, I just want to show you what we've got going on here for iteration 2 of this ship. So I took a lot of suggestions and feedback from people on what things I wanted to work on or things other people thought could make this a better ship. Obviously, by the end of that first video, you know, it wasn't anything amazing, but it was still, I think, something totally usable. So let me show you what we've done here. Let's turn off the AI. And let's lift her out of the water. If I can. Okay, so things I've added. Ballasts to the left and right. Okay, you can see those down here. Let's get down here. So these guys right here. And I'm actually, why is this a piece of wood? What in the world? Gonna fix that right now. So yeah, I've added ballasts here, and these help with buoyancy. You can see under here we've got on here a torpedo system, and here a missile system. And if we go up here towards the front, we have a few more propellers, side propellers. We also have 2 small front ballasts. These are lead-filled. I guess they started off as ballasts, I'm sorry. Eventually became lead-filled beasts. And this ship it's starting to turn into a beast, I'll say. It's looking like a beast. So I've beefed up the lasers, the shield systems, apologies. Increased the output of all those. See, we added some more aesthetics to the back here. It's no longer just 90-degree angles. We've got some like wing little things coming out. I added a missile defense system. So there's the missile warners on the back. You can see them here on the front, on the left, and the right. And then we've got one right up here. Another 2 on the front. And here's the actual missile, laser missile defense system. Each one has 4 pods. So we've got one on the front, we've got 2 in the middle of the ship, and I want to say we've got 1. Oh, there's not one on the back. I still need to add one on the back. That's still something I need to do. And yeah, so we've beefed everything up, and of course, along with beefing up the ship, we've beefed up the engine, just about probably doubled or tripled the power. And we still have, look, tons of room to work with. So yeah, this is essentially what we're going to be doing. The build will be us getting all these things built and added, and the final outcome of the ship is that it is a total beast. Still needs some tweaks to the missiles, but they're smart, right? The forward torpedo systems and the aft missile systems, all 4 of them work independently. They're each controlled by their own weapons controller, and they each target separately. And the ship, it maneuvers just fine. Oops, excuse me. Let's see if I can get a turn going here. It maneuvers great. Turrets turn wonderfully. It is not bad. So hey, let's without further ado, let's get right into the building, and we'll see how this baby takes shape. I'll see you guys in just a little bit. All right, so let's get the build process underway here, or more, should I say, the upgrade process. So first and foremost, I wanted to get these ballast tanks built on here. You know, the buoyancy of this ship is not so great. It's a lot of metal. And the inside was really confined, really small, nothing fantastic about it. Now, obviously, a lot of this is going to look ugly to start. I'm eventually, or will eventually here in the video later, switch this all over to metal, or at least the outside parts to metal. I just wanted to build in wood to kick things off. I don't know why, it felt right to me. So what I was doing here, I've got mirror mode on, and I'm kind of just drawing an outline, a basic outline to start, of essentially like 2 tanks on the left and right. And I'm going to kind of curve them up to meet back in the middle of the ship, so I can still keep my rudder system the way it is. So you'll see what I'm doing here. I'm slowly just sort of angling it up. Again, I make pretty ugly designs, but I thought this could be kind of cool on this ship. I don't know. And I will add, slopes. I like to get into the slopes. You know, my favorite thing. So here I'm adding a front dual ballast system as well. I'm assuming I'll call these ballast systems, right? Like, I think that's what they'll be. So yeah, I'm adding the same thing to the front here, and you know, eventually I'll fill this with lead, is what I find out that I need to do. because there's so much propulsion in the back, and I'm not able to get the engines up towards the center of mass, you know, for the ship. The ship has a center of mass, and if the engines are below that center of mass when the propulsion is activated or increased, the ship will sort of lift out of the water. And I didn't really want that because, you know, I've got some huge propellers that I'll eventually put on the sides here when I move all of the propulsion systems, and they need to be able to turn the ship left or right. And with these new ballast systems and whatnot, the ship stays much higher in the water, which is exactly what I wanted to set out and accomplish. Now the cool thing is both of these ballasts you see here on the left and the right, or both of these, you know, extra systems on the ship, extra attachments on the ship, I don't know what we want to call them, eventually these will also house the torpedo and missile systems, which is totally sweet. Now, by the end of the video, they will still need some tweaking. You know, they have some problems. So here I am, I'm testing out the turning. You know, obviously I'm now realizing, oh, well crud, this is actually floating it up so much that I'm going to have to go alter the engines. So I don't quite want to tackle that yet. So here I am, I'm like, okay, well let's just try to make this look semi-decent so I can kind of see... I wanted to see the aesthetics, you know, how it looked overall. I didn't want to just keep it as a box. I had to kind of make it look decent. And that's exactly what I'm doing here. Adding those slopes in there. It'll be cool if they're ever able to make the slopes matter a little bit more, you know, for potential cannon shells that may hit them. You know, if the angle of the shell is right and it hits a slope just right, maybe it'll not do as much damage or deflect in some way. So here I'm trying a few things. I was like, how can I make this look just a little bit better? And decided not to do that. Totally reversed it. So here I'm removing the propulsion, right? This is way too high. With this new system and the way it's going to be floating, this is too high up. So I quickly just fill back those parts. And here we go. I'm starting to pop some metal on there. I'm realizing too, my thought process was I should probably go ahead and put the metal where I want, because it's totally going to affect a lot of the buoyancy. You know, the metal has weight and the wood has weight, and the metal weighs a lot more than the wood. So here we go. I always struggle a little bit with getting the angle on the shapes in the correct position. You know, you can hold what is it, like you hold tab, I think, and you can hit, you know, the WASD keys and the Q and E key, and it'll flip it in different directions and planes. I just get a little discombobulated, I don't know. Especially when you're like sideways and upside down and right side up or whatever. It's like, shoot, man. I don't know how to get that on there, right? Shoot. Alright, so once again, I'm replacing bits here with metal, putting slopes on, putting angles. Yeah, so these front two ballast tanks, I may end up doing something with these. They're ballast tanks to start, but like I said, I'll eventually just completely fill them with lead. Or maybe not completely fill them, maybe like 50 or 60%. I needed some extra weight in the front to keep that nose down. And the ship is still pretty slow. I'll eventually add like a bunch more huge propellers on here in the front and the back. And I want to say the top speed is still something like 7 maybe or 8 meters a second. So here we go. Now, obviously we're getting to the point here where the ship is getting very tall. Taller than it is wide, I think. But I think I made these side things just big enough to keep it afloat. By the end, you'll see it's very stable. It's totally stable, which is great. So here's a mistake I made. You know, always check your center of mass on the ship. Put the engines at the very bottom. You can see it's lifting out. Very frustrating, you know. But it's obvious what you have to do to fix it. Sometimes it's hard to know what to do to fix it, even when you do know, because your ship is already built in such a way that you may have a hard time getting propulsion set in the correct place so it doesn't just nose you out of the water all the time. So what I'm doing here is I'm realizing, alright, I only need one of these pumps in a lot of these holds, so I took a bunch out. And throughout the video, sometimes it's kind of hard to see, but I've also been tweaking the amount of buoyancy the pumps, you know, you can scale them here. You see I'm moving stuff down. The buoyancy constraint, how much water it'll pump out of that air, that space that it's in. What I want, really, is for the newly added parts of the ship to be what's under the water, and most of the existing part of the ship to be floating above the water. And I do eventually accomplish this. I get it looking pretty good, I think. Again, it's a beast. So the first iteration of the Slenderstick, which is what this ship is called, for those of you who may not have caught on to that, That one was what? It was like just under 500,000 RP. By the end of this episode, we get it to right around 850,000 RP, I think. Add quite a bit to it. So here you can see what's going to happen. I add the propulsion to the front, and the problem is, right, it's sticking out of the water. Like, the back propulsion is below the center of mass, and so when I accelerate, or when the AI accelerates, it's going to push that nose out of the water. And so those front left and right propellers that are supposed to help it turn, you know, they don't have a chance to. So here my next thought was, okay, let's just put one a little bit, not as far up on the nose, but a little bit back. And that doesn't work either, okay? I'm sorry, it's dawning on me. So first thing, good, here we go. I move the propulsion up higher, which is great. See, it keeps the front a little bit lower. And it's turning decently here. It's staying pretty stable. You know, it's not bad. It's once I add the lead to the main front part of the ship that I think it really hits home. I think it's a decent design, at least. Nothing to write home about, but... So here you can see I'm finally doing a save, and I actually just saved this as a totally different ship in case all the things I've been building, I'm just like, this is crap. I'm going to go back to that first iteration of the Slenderstick. So keeping 2 builds on there. So here, you know, I know the cannons are effective. What I'm really testing is the AI's capability of keeping the ship upright. I want to make sure the cannons aren't going to turn the ship sideways. You know, a sideways ship is pretty sweet, but it's got to be like a nightmare if you're the one on the ship. So I totally, okay, yeah, I don't even realize that there are 2 propellers on the front right and only 1 on the left. I eventually get rid of that, don't worry. Sometimes I miss those things, you know, when you like focus on other parts of the ship, it's so easy to miss things like that, sorry. Excuse me. It's very cold out, very dry today. It's got me feeling just a little hoarse. So yeah, here we go. I'm fleshing out a little bit more. I'm adding more metal. I'm again realizing, like, okay, metal is another great way to get your ship a little bit lower in the ground. And I want to coat the outside parts with metal. I don't want to have too much wood showing. I don't want to have too much wood showing, jeez. And here we are testing again, looking at the sides, making sure she's gonna float and be okay. So one of the other things I do, you know, I'm adding these ballast tanks on the sides, and I'll eventually add, we're gonna be adding a missile defense system with lasers, excuse me, as well as a lot more shields, all at 10 strength, especially on the main front turret, or I'm sorry, the main back turret. We'll also be really increasing the engine strength. It was like 6 or 7K, I think, in the first iteration, and in this one, it is up to, I'll get it up to around 17,000. And so now what I'm doing, I'm adding more propellers on the front. I want a little bit more propulsion. And the thought is maybe these front propellers will maybe keep it from rising out of the water some. You know, I'm just experimenting, really. And here I'm finally wising up. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put a bunch of lead in these front 2 areas to pull the nose down. And it definitely works. Look at that. And now when I'm cranking it, just most of it stays underwater, which is perfect. And when it turns, it stays completely flat, completely stable. Which is beautiful. And that poor marauder, oh my gosh, that poor marauder in the background is just getting massacred. His ship is just a bloody pulp, and I'm over there still just wailing on it, you know? Engine's just sitting there spinning, so funny. So here I'm like, okay, maybe I can try to get a little aesthetic goodness going on in the back here, a few slopes perhaps. I don't really know what I did here. I'm not super thrilled with it, but you know, it's different. It's not a full square. I just didn't want those perfect 90-degree angles. I don't know how some of you guys do it. It's incredible. So here we go. Excellent, excellent. It's looking good. Now, eventually I'll get rid of these repair bots as well. And I'm going to be adding a bunch of slopes on here, which you'll see I'm doing right now. I'll get rid of these repair bots. I'm going to slope it up just to put some more slopes on there. Because why not? That's my reasoning for like almost every change I do. I'm like, why not? Who's stopping me? Nobody. The only thing this is doing is making my ship a lot heavier. Always got to recognize that. Always got to keep that in your mind. So great. So now another big thing I'm going to do here is completely hollow out this back area. You know, a lot of suggestions from people was, you know, you can hollow out more of that what do you call it, that orb, that dome on the back of your ship there, and get more room for ammo and stuff. So I do eventually figure this out. I struggle a little bit, you know, because even though it's hollowed out, it's all going to be turning, and I've got some AI like sticking out in a weird place here. I could also relocate the AI, which would not be a problem. But I got this working pretty well, I think. And in fact, if you know, the elevation on this barrel right now is 50, and by the end, I get it up to like 68, you know, and it does a lot more explosive, more kinetic. Pretty great. And I even extend the barrel out a little bit longer, which I'm not quite sure why I did that, but it's like, again, why not? Long barrel's pretty sweet to see. So yeah, now I'm plunking down some ammo boxes, or some autoloaders, sorry. And here I'm testing the turn radius, so you can see, yeah, we've got some clipping problems. And what I'll eventually do is I'll build, instead of building out along the perimeter of the turret here, I'll build down, and I'll build off of the 6-way connectors going straight down. That way when it turns, you know, they're all still within this like certain radius, which works out great. So here we go, I'm extending the engine, a couple more slices here, and then I'm going to customize those slices, right? Take out the exhausts, pop on some carburetors, some more fuel tanks, and then we'll put some superchargers on there. And I mean, just look at our engine power down at the bottom right. You know, 10,000, 11,000, 12,000, see, 13,000, 14,000. Come on, baby, keep going, come on. See, come on, I know we get it. There we go, it jumped up to 16, 17,000. So now I like doubled the engine power here, which, you know, you gotta do if, one, you want to power lasers, and two, if you want to keep your shields running strong and add more shields, then you're totally going to need a lot more engine power. Like, it would be sweet if if my car was like 17,000 horsepower. You know, it idles at like 300 miles per hour or whatever. Alright, so now what I'm doing here, we're working on the missile defense systems. So I'm working to hook up some missile warning systems. So you got to get essentially AI, and you got to hook it up like I'm doing here. So what I'll eventually do is I'll hook the missile warning systems up to the 6-way connector. And what I have here, I just have one sticking out. I'm eventually going to revise that in just a few moments here, actually, to make it where the 6-way connector sticks up a little bit more, and I can add more of the warning systems around the 6-way connector, which you'll see I'm doing on this one. I eventually realized, oh yeah, that's what I did, I forgot. It's exactly what I did on the River's Delight. And once again, I'm totally bummed when I don't have the mirror mode on. Golly, I can't tell you how many times I do that. So yeah, there we go. And so we've got the missile defense systems here. I'm increasing the size of this one as well. Now, one point I was worried about here was the turret's turn radius, and if it would clip these bad boys. So there we go. You can see I've got the Warner, kind of sticks out to the left, up, and the other one sticks out to the right and up, hopefully to cover each other's bases, and they both have a warning system looking straight up. And from the tests I run later in this video, the missile systems and the lasers that they'll shoot seem to work fairly well. They're not the best. You know, they're just like little 100-power snoogs or whatever. But I add so many of them to the ship that it seems to do decent enough on a lot of the ships that we fight. So again, like I start here working on the laser system, and I had to sit there for just a little bit. I was like, okay, now what in the world do you do for lasers again? So I always start off with the... Here we go, what am I doing here? Okay, yeah, I'm adding the pumps. So yeah, I start off with the coupler. I believe that's what it's called. Yeah, the coupler. And then I add some laser cavities under it, and then I attach pumps to the cavities. I also add a destabilizer at the very bottom. And here what I do, so on top of the coupler, I add the multi-purpose laser component, and then on that, you attach the laser missile defense systems. And so what I found was you can attach multiple of these. It's so cool. Like, to one multi-purpose laser, you could attach it to every open face, and, you know, the laser will pump through each one of those surfaces. Now, I have a feeling the damage is probably going to be a lot less, or maybe more distributed. It's maybe something I'll have to test out. But again, it seems to work pretty well. I've got these scattered on the ship, one on the front, two on the sides, and I eventually put one on the back. And here we go, that poor frickin' marauder. I'm just like, kill him, destroy him, take him out of existence. Alright, so now we're trying to strike. I'm seeing what's going to happen with a strike here. And of course my cannons hit it, and I don't get much of a chance to shoot his missiles. So then I spawn 3 strikes. I'm like, screw it. And we do fairly well here, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so you can see I'm already, my laser stuff, see, look at that. Boom, boom, laser system shot all the missiles, all the bombs, whatever we want to call them. The ship's kicking it, another strike down. And I'm pretty stoked. The buoyancy is much better. Turning seems to work well. Even with the cannon's full blast, you can tell it won't tip over. And here we go, reloading the designer because I want to get a fresh start here. So now I'm trying to load in some different planes. I'm not quite sure what to load in, so I tried this harpoon, which was great because it shoots quite a bit of missiles, and you can see I'm actually shooting down a good bit of them. And the cannon is not doing a bad job at shooting this guy either. And my ship, it looks like just a huge fat ass on the bottom. It's so fat. So I immediately regretted spawning in the Beluga. It's a laser ship, and this is before I have missiles or anything else, and I'm like, oh, I can't get this guy. He's just going to toy with my ship the whole time. I'm just pelting away with lasers. Alright, so now I'm going in here, and I'm adding more shielding. This is great, because we've got the engine power. We've got the power. We must make it better. Oh, and we will. And also a shield on the back. So now that front part's pretty well shielded. I also add a shield back near the other missile defense system. I pull that range in there. So there are definitely still a few openings on the ship. And another thing I was thinking about, just watching the video here, I don't add shield to the very bottom ballasts. And you'll see I eventually put a bunch of ammo boxes in there. I do cover them with metal. I eventually wise up and cover them with metal, but yeah, I could definitely add some more shields down there. I've still got a ton of power to spare. Tons of power to spare. So again, here we're hollowing out this dome. You know what's funny is how much hollowing out of this dome I have done. What would have been wise, or really good, would have been to prefab a totally hollow dome. That would have been sweet. Here we go. Beautiful. I'm finally replacing a bunch of wood with metal here. You know, going for some consistency. And this is where I'm going to start building down on the turret. I'm going to experiment and play around a little bit, do 6-way connectors going down. Because, so you can tell, like, with this extra hollow space now, you know, when the turret turns, yeah, so you can totally see it here. You can see the bits turning around the pole in the middle there. It's kind of a cool setup the way it works. And so here I'm going to start toying around with the auto loaders, you know, putting ammo boxes on them. And I just want to see how much of a turn radius I can get, where the clipping's going to be. Highly recommend not using mirror mode when you're doing something like this, because it's going to be mirroring on wrong parts. You know, if you're building on the left on one side, you're going to be building on the right on the other side of those autoloaders. So here we go, I'm working on elevation a bit more. I was like, I want some more elevation. So we got it up to 68 there. Got about 18 more degrees, which is huge. That's actually a lot of added elevation to that back cannon. So I totally scrapped those autoloaders I put on there, and I just figured I would change up how I was doing it. So here I sort of tiered them. I put one every other block, just for 2 blocks, or 4 blocks, however you want to look at it. And now you can really see it spinning. It's working a lot better. And I love the way this stuff works. You just, you know, you see all these moving parts and stuff. It's just so cool. Alright, so here we go. I'm playing around a little bit more. I just want to eke out, you know, a good bit of power. Look at those cannons. Good lord, they are just firing away. We're up to 950 kinetic on that back cannon. The front cannon has a lot more kinetic damage, if I recall correctly. Something like 1100. So yeah, you can really see the ship shaping up here. I actually dig the outside shape. It's not as bad. So here I'm lining the inside with ammo barrels because I'm prepping for the missile systems and the torpedo systems. So I know I'm going to need ammo. And here, you can see me, so this is sped up, right? This is sped up by about, you know, 20x or something. And you could see me, I was just lingering over the missile winch. I really was tempted to play around with it. But I haven't actually ever toyed with it, and I thought this would be probably a bad time for me to mess around with this. So here's how this is going to work. On both the left and right sides of the ship, in those ballast tanks I have here, they will be split into two parts. The front left will be torpedoes, and the back left will be missiles, and the front right will be torpedoes, and the back right will be missiles. And the torpedoes eventually will be set up so they only actually shoot if targets are essentially at water level or below, and the missiles will only shoot if targets are, like, I think 30 or 40 feet up and above. The thought being, I just want the missiles to shoot at air targets, and I just want the torpedoes to be what I use for all my water targets. And, you know, I get it working pretty well, fairly well, I'd say. There's definitely a lot of tweaking left I want to do, especially for the missile part. By the end of the video, you'll see the torpedoes work pretty well. You know, and if you look at the top of all of the connectors here, I have ejector systems to help all of the payloads get out of the ship as quick as possible. So yeah, the torpedoes work really effectively, I felt like. Now the missiles, by the end, you'll see they only actually launch a few times. So I think I've got some of my parameters set wrong for their firing radiuses and stuff. You know, just something I need to toy around with a little bit more. But yeah, this is a really cool system I think I have set up here. I was really digging it. Like, really increases the lethality of the ship. The torpedoes have something like a 600 or 700 range along with the missiles. Heck, the torpedoes may have an even longer range. I never really checked, but I set them all up essentially to fire like around 700 to 800 meters. And you know, the cool thing is, excuse me, the missiles, you know, they launch from under the water. So do the torpedoes, but it makes sense for the torpedoes. However, the missiles, with the one-turn mechanism on there, you can actually launch them from under the water, and they will actually, you know, come out of the water, and the engines will keep them going. It's really cool that they can work like that. You know, just always amazes me. I don't know if real missiles work like that. I imagine they do, you know. Propulsion's propulsion, but I don't know how water would affect it or anything. So here I'm trying to set things up on the missiles, and one big screw up. I don't know if you noticed, I didn't put a one-turn component on there. So it's not till like the end that I realized, oh god, I don't have a one-turn component, no wonder. I did, however, add the one-turn component to the torpedoes. Yeah, I did add it to those. And you could see there, just a moment ago, you could see I had 2 propellers on the side still. I will seriously eventually catch that in this video. Alright, so here we go with all the configuration. I'm doing all the constraints, and I will eventually here hook up the AI mainframes, or sorry, the local weapon controllers, which is what I'm doing now. And I add essentially one weapon controller controls each side. So I made sure to place them down such that, you know, one controller only gets one. I don't know why I did that, but just in case, let's say like one of your ship gets hit, you know, I don't have a weapon controller going out and me losing 2 sides of a ship. Although granted, I mean, look how close they are, right? Like if one of them's gonna blow up, the other one's probably pretty close. So here we go, setting ranges. Want to make sure, I'm just kind of eyeballing stuff right now based on how many thrusters I have on there and how many fins. It's totally cool though. I did get lost a few times. Just the blocks, there's so many blocks, and they're all so close together and clustered. And it was tough because the ballast was split, you know, like the first half is torpedoes, the back half is missiles, and when I was going to the left side of the ship and the right side of the ship, and if I was at the front or the back, you know, I was either working on torpedoes or missiles, so it just got a little confusing after a while. I'd have to like just sit back and go, okay, what am I working on here? What am I doing? All right, so I got them set up, and I'm like, let's test them out. And eventually, I want to say, like, nothing launches at first, and I'm curious what's going on. Mainly because my guy just literally obliterated that Marauder before I even got a chance to get close enough. Same with the Shrike. And so the missiles didn't shoot, right? The missiles should have shot there. Very, very funky, and that's kind of the problem I still have with them. I've definitely set the constraints wrong. So here we go, the torpedoes are launching. And the cool thing is that that one turn on their torpedoes, it's a very gradual turn, but there they go, boom, boom. Just totally rocking and rolling. Oh, and it's also set up in such a way that, you know, if you have ships on your left and ships on your right, and planes on your left and planes on your right, then this ship should be able to target them individually. Like, the left side of the ship will be shooting all the stuff on the left and etc. on the right. And they should meet up in the front so that they can both kind of target stuff near the front. So yeah, there you can see it launched torpedoes out the left. There goes some missiles it just launched. So it's got a lot of different armaments going on here. So now you'll notice the ammo. The ammo was having problems. I noticed after like even just one battle, just shooting a few volleys, I was at like half ammo. So I added like I think 9 or maybe 12 ammo processors. Yeah, this ship's never gonna run out of ammo at this point. Unless someone hits those ammo processors. So here again, you can see the torpedoes. Boo! Look at them going! Goodness, wreckfest. My gosh. Total wreckfest. I don't even know what I spawned in there, but whatever I spawned in, he just took a nosedive. You know, he was like, F it. I'm done with life. There we go, some more missiles shooting in random spots. Pretty sweet. Torpedoes firing out. Now look at my ammo. Look how quick that refills. It is beautiful. And it looks like, at worst case scenario, I'm down to 6,000 power, 6,700 power. No, 6,000. Which, you know, that's a lot of spare power to play around with. There's a lot more I can add to this ship. So the shielding works amazing. In just a few minutes here, I think we'll see a great example of someone coming head on and shooting tons of cannons and like 99% of all the shots just bouncing off my ship. So there I had a problem. Somebody was able to shoot through the ballast, got through the metal, and they hit the ammo, which blew up, you know, 80% of the ballast or whatever. So what I'm doing here is I'm like, all right, I'm gonna add another layer of metal in here. Whee! Just kind of coating it, you know, nothing amazing. Whatever added protection I figured I could do at this point, I will. Okay. So again, I do a little bit more tweaking with the constraints, but we're getting to the point where I'm starting to feel pretty good. Again, for like the second iteration of the ship, it's a lot more stable. It's got a ton more power. It's now capable of shooting torpedoes and missiles, so it's better able to deal with potential air targets and more sea targets. And of course, they've got the mainstay, the cannons. That's like the bread and butter of the ship, I think. And this is a near 100% metal ship. So I like to think it would be pretty tough to take down, like this Warden we're dealing with right here. So there, look at that, you can see the torpedoes just making their way. Look at them just moseying on over. It's like, what's going on? Not much, just, you know, we're just a bunch of torpedoes having a torp party. Alright, so we're just chewing into no wait, that's not a, is that a Warden? Yeah, it's a Warden. So sometimes, I love the way the ejector shoots those torpedoes. But yeah, so the torpedoes don't have a great turn radius. It's pretty slow. I think I have 2 sets of fins on them as well. I don't know if that even affects a torpedo. What would be really great on those torpedoes is magnets for heads. I think that would seal the deal. So now I'm trying to find some more stuff to spawn in. Hoping to, anyways. It looks like we are actually back in real time here. I want to say that the last like 4 minutes of this video is just us shooting different ships, trying out the ship in combat. So the main thing that I'm looking for here, stability. Capability to deal with incoming fire. So you can see there, I shot one of the missiles that just hit me, or that was coming at me, and one of them hit me. So I got one of the two. And you can see all the crazy like laser stuff I got coming out of my ship. Sometimes it's weird, they just kind of shoot everywhere sometimes. It's kind of hilarious. So boom, I mean look at that, like I'm shooting missiles as they come right out of this guy's face hole. Boosh, boosh, I mean it's pretty effective. So now I'm trying to think like, alright, let's get something a little bit bigger. The Moth is a pretty big ship. So's the Hawker. No, the Hawker's a beast. I love the way that ship looks, by the way. That Hawker, so cool. So, okay, yeah, here comes a ton of cannon fire from the Hawker. So this will be a great chance for us to see how the shields are working. So here we're gonna get a little closer and take a look. Look at all those bullets just bouncing off those shields. That is some good protection. That is like a nice condom, nice and tight. So I don't know what's happening here. My ship is shooting torpedoes, and that's one of the things I still need to tweak. I'm like, why is my ship shooting torpedoes right now? More than likely, there could be some debris or something in the vehicle designer here. That does happen a lot, you know. Ships don't really get despawned unless you just luckily just clobber like 100% of them. And I'm kind of thinking that's what could be going on here. It also could be that my torpedoes, my ship is still facing the Warden debris there, and the torpedoes still could be activating at the front of the ship. So what I may do is, you know, even set the minimum range. You know, it's got to be like 20 meters out, 30, 40 meters out, something like that. If anything's closer than that, I'd like to think my cannons would take care of them. So yeah, here we had a little bit of a problem. The front of my ship was sinking down because it hit the front of that Warden. It dipped it under. And I wasn't quite sure. This is where I could use some balloons, I think, to help lift the ship out, maybe. I don't know if they'd really be the thing I want to use here. But you can see it does come back out. And that's mainly because I'm sitting here manipulating the controls. And I figured once it got going again, it'd be good. And if the ship if it even stops for just a moment, it'll even back out, come back to the surface. So there it goes, we're back out. Good, we're all solid. Which is leaps and bounds better than that first iteration. If you remember, if it was going under, it was under. Like, that's it. That baby's done, baby. So yeah, this was iteration 2, we'll call it, for the Slenderstick. I rather enjoyed it. I think the upgrades were pretty good. I again learned a lot, especially about buoyancy. I've had a lot of people leave me suggestions and comments and stuff of things I could fix. So hey guys, I hope this was another good episode for you. Hope you enjoyed it, and hope you still think the time-lapse with commentary is alright. So yeah, this has been good, and I'll definitely keep doing these Let's Build series. So, you know, we'll continue on with that, and maybe build some more ships. Not all of them will necessarily have the time-lapse stuff going on. You know, a lot of them we may build it normal style, and you know, if it's like a smaller build, we can probably still polish it off in an episode. So, hey guys, thank you so much for hanging out, chilling. If you enjoyed the episode, like, subscribe if you're not already. We could always use more people here in the Scrotorium. And until next time, you guys, take it easy and stay classy.